Welcome back to Real Estate. In this episode, we'll take a look at recent government land sale bids and see how they'll impact the new launch market. We'll also focus on new home buyers, especially those who intend to enter the market next year. Amid rising new launch prices, will the current low interest rate environment remain in their favour? First, let's take a look at the competition for GLS sites. Amid falling unsold inventories, developers have been hungry for land. One indication of their bullish attitude was in October last year, when the tender closed for a mixed-use site at Tanah Merah Kechil Link and another EC site at Yishun Avenue 9. The site at Tanah Merah Kechil Link saw 15 bids and was awarded to MCC Land, which submitted a top bid of 248.9 million, which is about 930 PSF per plot ratio. The EC site at Yishun Avenue 9 saw 7 bids and was awarded to Singh Holdings, which submitted a top bid of 373.5 million, which is 576 PSF PPR. According to market watchers at the time, both sites saw better than expected bids amid bullish attitudes among developers. Over the past 10 months, GLS sites have seen stiff competition, including those at Mo Kio Avenue 1, Northumberland Road, Jalan Anak Bukit, and most recently, Lentor Central. I spoke to Nicholas Mark, Head of Research and Consultancy at ERA Realty, to find out what's behind developers' hunger for land.
Hi, I'm Nicholas Mark, Head of Research and Consultancy at ERA Realty Network. Over the last 5 years, the government sell enough land that can yield anywhere between 3,000 to 6,000 private housing units each year. However, last year, because of the pandemic, the government scaled back the supply of residential land, hence the amount of housing supply that can be built on the land sold last year only amount to an estimated 1,800 units. However, housing demand remained robust, especially after the circuit breaker. Real estate developers sold about close to 10,000 private housing units last year, which was roughly about the same as the demand that we have seen in 2019. At the same time, the en bloc sale market was also a bit more muted last year because of the pandemic. In a nutshell, the GLS supply from last year was not enough to meet the housing demand that we are seeing this year and expected to continue to see next year. Real estate developers has been quite bullish in recent government land sale tenders, partly because there is limited number of such sites available for sale. Secondly is that some of them are also short of land because of the strong demand and their inventory is running low. And thirdly is that there is also a shortage of sizable en bloc sale sites. Lastly is that many developers find that the government land sale process is quite straightforward, transparent, and they can also get possession of the land quite quickly after the tender close. As land prices continue to rise, especially in past year, home buyers might be more concerned that if they do not buy the existing condominiums now, in the future, when the new project is launched, it could be launched at higher prices, and as a result, it could actually increase the prices of the condominiums in that neighborhood substantially. Going into next year, unless there is some economic shock, otherwise, it is quite reasonable to assume that this urgency to replenish land bank will actually increase as developers' inventory of unsold units start to run down. This is, of course, bearing in mind that there is no government intervention in the meantime.
As Nicholas mentioned, the tender for the Lentor Central GLS site was one of the highest for a suburban GLS site. Using Ep5's land sales tool, the mixed-use site at Lentor Central attracted 9 bids. Guocoland Group submitted the top bid of 784.1 million, which is a land rate of 1,204 PSF per plot ratio. Our land sales tool estimates that the developer could face a break-even price of about 1,930 PSF PPR after factoring in the various redevelopment costs for this site. This had an immediate impact on the launch of Pasir Ris 8, which occurred just 2 days later. The project saw an impressive take-up rate of 85% after its first weekend sales, and it achieved an average price of about 1,600 PSF. Subsequently, Ep5 reported that because of the bullish land bids and the success of Pasir Ris 8, other developers of new launches in the suburbs and city fringe areas started to revise their prices upwards. I met with Ken Low, Managing Partner of Singapore Realtors Incorporated, to ask if these price increases could be met with more resistance from home buyers.
Hi, I'm Ken Low, the Managing Partner of SRI. I head the entire project marketing in the company and have been running new launch for more than 10 years now. There were two major events that were happening during that period of time. So on the 22nd of July, the tender result for Lentor was released, and following 2 days, Pasir Ris 8 did their launch on the 24th of July. So these two events actually created a knee-jerk reaction from the buyers. They realized that there were low-lying fruits available in the market, and they went up to snap up these units because the expected launch price of Lentor will be above 2,000 per square foot in the following year. The successful launch of Pasir Ris 8 actually normalized the price expectations of buyers in the market. The buyers responded positively in this marginal price increase. The 2 to 3% price increase that we saw in the market is actually reasonable as compared to what we are expecting in the new launch prices in 2022. Our current new home supply is actually running dangerously low. Based on the take-up rate that we have tracked on a year-to-year basis, the current supply would probably last us for the next 1 to 2 years. So by the time in 2022, when these new launches come in, the low supply would probably support the new price point.
Ken pointed out that low supply could support higher prices in the new launch market next year. Now, home buyers and investors have benefited from a persistently low interest rate environment over the past few years, and this has enabled more upgraders and home buyers to enter the housing market. But as interest rates in Singapore increase in tandem with global markets, this could cast a pall over the housing market as debt borrowing costs increase. I asked Clive Chung, Associate Director of Red Brick Mortgage and Advisory, what this means for home buyers.
Hi everyone, my name is Clive Chung. I'm an Associate Director with Red Brick Mortgage Advisory. There are signs that are pointing to the end of a low interest rate environment. And usually what we like to take cue from is what's happening in the US. The economies have been making gradual progress. Now on top of that, we also want to look at the number of jobs being added into the US economy every month. Now, another thing that we want to look at is inflation data. And if all things converge, at this rate with a gradual reopening of the economy, we can and we possibly might see a shift in monetary policy, and more than often, it's going to be in the form of an interest rate hike. So new home buyers who have just recently taken on a mortgage loan in the recent year or in last year in 2020 are actually quite lucky because they got interest rate at an all-time low. And many of them are actually leveraging on this to capture lower fixed interest rates for a longer duration of time, just to hedge against the possibility of rising interest rates. And of course, we see a portion of them as well going for floating interest rates. Now, since the margins between fixed and floating interest rates are so thin, we have to exercise a little bit more caution and a little bit more prudence. In my opinion, I think it's good to hedge with a fixed interest rate moving forward. Actually, the evaluation of mortgages for home buyers and the value of properties is determined on a few factors, but we have to understand that it's natural for developers to actually raise their pricing after a certain period of time. And usually they start with launching prices at very low prices. Well, number one, to attract clients. Number two, to create awareness. And also this gives them time to test the market response. Now, in terms of valuation of properties, what happens is that the valuers actually use their own methodologies. Most of the time, they just use price comparison when it comes to valuations above other factors as well. But at the end of the day, it really is demand and supply. So we definitely do expect more home buyers to refinance their loan next year. We also see many clients in 2018 and 2019 have the mortgages pegged to SIBOR, right? And as we know from MAS, that SIBOR is eventually going to be replaced by a new rate, which is the Singapore Overnight Rate Average, or SORA. So people who are pegged onto SIBOR will definitely consider moving into another interest rate, maybe a fixed interest rate even, because SIBOR is going to cease after all. So yes, we do expect quite a strong demand in refinancing next year.
As we've seen in this episode, competition for land and rising prices for GLS sites has stimulated the residential property market. But developers are in a tight spot as they navigate rising construction costs, land prices, and slim profit margins. They also have to manage their unsold inventory. Buying sentiment is expected to remain strong into 2022, but home buyers should be mindful of their finances as they plan their next property purchase. Thank you for watching another episode of Real Estate. Real opinions, real statements.